Good Monday morning to all of you. I hope all of you are doing well. My name is Niladri Mukherjee and I'm a related Canadian immigration consultant. I practice in Mississauga, Ontario. So it's a good Monday morning, at least for us, because we have received the approval requests, the approval and the original passport request for a little complicated case that we have been working on for quite a long time. The long time is because of the processing time. The clients were quite fast in providing us the documents. We were fast in submitting the applications as well. But as you know, the processing time is generally quite long for almost all the applications. Hence, this application took a quite a long time. So I'm talking about a study permit acceptance followed by the acceptance of the closed work permit for the student because the course has a co-op opportunity as well, and an open work permit for the spouse because the spouse is joining the wife while the wife studies in Canada. The spouse wants to work in Canada. So this is a little bit about the case. Now, we have taken a combined approach in this case, and I will explain that in a second. What is that? But let us just talk about a little bit about the client profile. The client is a matured student. The client is over 30 plus, lives in a country which is not her home country for quite a long time, over 5 to 6 years. The client is living in a country that is not her home country. The client lives in a rented accommodation in the in our current country of residence, does not own any property whatsoever. The bank balance were sort of reasonable, has never worked uh, throughout her life. So that's the profile of the client. The husband of the client is a working professional and has about 5 6 years of kind of a work experience. Again, 30 plus. So that's the profile of the client. So when the client approached me, I believe in the month of February or March, they have visited quite a few local consultants in their countries, and almost all of them had told them that if you apply for a student visa, your visa would be rejected because you do not reside in your home country, you do not have a property, you do not have a and all the other details that we typically think are the mandatory requirements for a study permit acceptance these days. The clients came to me for a consultation, and we have decided to go on a combined approach. So I will explain that again in a second. What is that? But I predominantly asked the client to go for a study visa while applying for the spousal open work permit as well at the same time. The clients were a little bit hesitant to do that because, again, because of the notion that they have is that if you do apply both your study permit as well as your open work permit for the spouse at the same time, the possibility of rejection is quite high. Again, the best part about this whole process is that I got the opportunity, me and my team, we got the opportunity to steer the case exactly like the way we wanted. The clients had their own innovations, but they were fantastic enough to listen to our story, which is amazing. Listen to us and have us control their whole application, which is why I believe the application is a successful one today. So that's about the client profile. So I was talking about the combined approach. So combined approach is that many people have this notion is that if you are applying for a study visa today, and if you have or had an express entry profile, you mandatorily need to cancel that express entry application before you apply for the study visa, because otherwise then your study permit would be rejected. This is not true. There is a thing called dual intent, by virtue of which you can have both the applications running at the same time. So my clients have their express entry profile running as is. I did not want them to cancel that application, yet I have decided to go forward with the study permit applications without disturbing any part of their express entry profile. Why? Because of the same reason is that, frankly speaking, nobody is coming to Canada just to study, right? You're coming to Canada to study and then gain some work experience, then apply for the permanent residency. And if you're honest in that application in a legal way, it is just fine, right? So this is the combined approach that I was talking about. And again, just as a reminder, the clients are matured students, so they are both 30 plus, and the client who is a student, who would be a potential student in Canada, does not have any work experience. Yeah, the person has done his bachelor, then master degree, then got married, did not have any work experience whatsoever, and then she has applied for a diploma course after 5 or 6 years of gap between her last education, and in between this phase, she's just a housewife. So this is the profile that is also working, which means that if the application is strong, the possibility of acceptance is generally quite higher. So that's about the client profile and the combined approach. So what are the so when we take a client for anything, it could be about immigration, it could be about studies or visitor. I prefer to do a strength and weakness analysis at my end. Like, what is the strength of that profile, or what is the potential strength of that profile vis-a-vis, what are the issues or what are the negative factors that we have to potentially navigate through. So strengths, there are many, because the person is a good student, which is what is fundamentally important when you apply for a study visa. The person has a decent language score, I believe 6 in all the in all the modules, and I believe 6.5 in another. Not a great kind of an IELTS score, but not a bad one by any means. So decent language score. The issues were a lot, actually. The first issue is that the person does not reside in our home country. And the person does not own a house, the person does not own a land, the person does not own anything practically, right? So it is very important for us to make a stronger application with this, with citing the case laws, by making sure the immigration officers are convinced that the person will leave Canada at the end of the stay, by fully satisfying regulations 216 of the IRPR. So that's the primary issues that we have dealt with. The other issue was the age. Sometimes people tend to think that if you're like 30 or 35 plus, your possibility of study permit acceptance is almost zero. No, it's not the case. Even if you're 45 plus, or even if you're 50 for that matter, you could still get your study permit approved if the application is done correctly. And now this person that I'm talking about is not 50, she's just about 30. But still, the applications were done in a proper manner. The course selection was correct. The documentary evidences were solid, and which resulted in this approval. So the persons were 30 plus, back to my original point. Another issue that we have felt is that the client did not really have a lot of money, which is very, very important for a study permit application, because if you're coming here for a 2 year course, you have to prove that you have to have enough money at least to meet up for all your 1 year expenses, right? But the person did not have that much amount of money. So the person's brother, mind you, my client is a married woman, and her brother sponsored this whole thing, whole study and the application process and everything, right? So the brother of my client has transferred a good amount of money into my client account as a gift aid, and then we did that application based on that. I was sort of hesitant. I had a couple of innovations in my mind, but that was the only option that we have had. And obviously, we have provided a lot of evidentiary proofs, and I have cited a lot of case laws to be able to prove that this is a genuine gift aid and this is a genuine student. The other innovation that my clients have, and I think I should tell you, is that they have heard that study permit SOP. So if you're doing that application on your own, what you write is called statement of purpose or letter of explanation or SOP. And if you end up working with with an RCIC or an immigration lawyer, if I am submitting any of my client's profile, then what I write is called legal submission letter. So regardless, it's the same thing, but we have to write it in a different manner, right? I write it in a different manner at least. So my clients have this innovation is that the SOP have to be a very, very big, long, super heavy kind of an SOP, whereas the SOP that I wrote is just about 3 pages. The clients were expecting around 5, 6, 7 pager SOP citing everything. But as I had said at the very beginning, the clients had their complete trust in us, and we got the opportunity to steer the application exactly like the way we wanted. When you're writing an SOP or when you're writing a submission letter, for that matter, it does not have to be long. It does not have to be like super duper thorough to the extent that the officers do not even understand what you're talking about. For example, if you're choosing a course in e-commerce and if you're coming from India, you do not have to tell them what is Flipkart and what is Snapdeal. You just have to explain your things in a manner that is easily understandable by the officer. So if you're writing a statement of purpose, if you're writing a submission letter, for that matter, you have to keep in mind that it has to make officers' life easier. So my submission letter is always very, very to the point with a lot of case laws, and that work at least for the 99% of the times, right? And it did work this time as well. So we submitted that whole application. We took about a month and a half, because study permit is a long, complicated process. And we submitted that application, and we got the decision today, and we got the medical request about 15-20 days back, and we got the approval decision today. So all the three applications are approved. The study permit of my client, who is 30 plus, the closed work permit of her, because the course involves a co-op as well, and the spousal open work permit because the husband is joining her in Canada as well. The session begins in January in Seneca College, and I look forward to at least having them once in my office before they start the college. So this is just a case, and if you're talking about the timeline, the client currently lives in Southeast Asia, and it took about 3.5 months from the application submission to getting a decision. So if you're looking for a realistic timeline, this is it. If you have applied for a study permit application, if you applied for a study permit and your session begins in January, at least I could tell you from my experience is that most of the decisions have started coming in for study permit. So if you have not received your decision for study permit, it may be a good idea to apply for case notes, to apply for GCMS notes. And from my experience, I could tell you is that the case notes for a study permit does not really take a lot of time to be retrieved. If you're requesting for a case note for a visitor visa, it may take a lot of time, at least 60 days. But if you're requesting for a case note for a study permit, you should ideally receive it within 30-35 days, right? So if you have not received your decision as yet, and if your session begins in January, please don't raise a number of web forms, raise a case note request. Most likely, you will get a decision. For my client, I did not raise a case note as yet. I intended to do that after a while, but then, uh, I got the decision approved. So this is it. So what really worked in our favor, if you will, most importantly, when I work with a client, I tend to take a complete responsibility for the client. Me and my team, we like to take a complete legal responsibility for the client, and we like them to listen to us and just close your eyes and we will do everything for you, right? And we'll keep you posted in every single step. We'll take your feedback, but let us do our job and you should be fine. That's the approach that we take, because when somebody is paying their hard-earned money to us, the responsibility lies on us to ensure that we are doing justice to it. So in this case, if I have to imagine, along with all the hard work that went into the project, both from my client side as well as from our side, the one thing that really worked is that the clients were extremely, they have complete reliance on our ability and their work, and they let us steer that application exactly like the way we want it. So again, coming back to my previous videos and the entire storyline of Canadian immigration of 2022 and 2023, if we were to make it to Canada anytime sooner, right, the study is the only option to go. Now, there are a lot of colleges and a lot of universities that offer cheap courses. You do not really have to come to Ontario. You do not have to go to British Columbia. In fact, for this particular client, I wanted them to go to Northern Ontario. I wanted them to go to Atlantic Canada, but they were very specific about Ontario. Unfortunately, they have gotten their admission from Seneca College, and now that the decision is approved, I think everything's all right. But I personally, very honestly speaking, I wanted them to go to somewhere in the east or in the north. But so if you're planning to apply for a study permit, make sure to preferably not to choose Ontario and British Columbia. Then the possibility of acceptance is generally quite high. But you also have to keep in mind that what kind of PR opportunities those provinces have to offer to you, because you are not coming here just to study. Your intention is more or less permanent. But again, for study permit, you have to prove that you will leave Canada after the study anyways, right? So that's choosing a place is very important. Another important factor is the documents. More often than not, I see the files get rejected because of improper presentation of document. Even the passport is not scanned properly. The documents are not scanned properly. The proof that the clients give, they just copy paste things from the Google and they put it there. Lot of copy pasting in the SOP. All those things do not work. The immigration officers are super smart. If you copy paste anything, they will get to know in a second. If you do not prove your points, it will not be even looked into. Right? So make sure your documentation is strong. That number one is documentation. And the second is how are you presenting this document is also important. Make sure you use a professional quality scanning. Do not use a cam scanner and things like that. Those do not work in Canada. right? Make sure you scan those documents properly, put those documents properly into the scanner, then do some professional quality thing and present it to them. All those small little things count. Thirdly, the statement of purpose or SOP or submission letter, whatever term you use, do not make it a lengthy documents. You have to make others' life easier. An immigration officer is reviewing, I don't know how many files a day. So if you write like super long story, he will lose his patience. He may not even want to go through all those big strong write-ups. Make it strong, make it legal, make it to the point. Your voice will be heard. And thirdly, and most importantly, is the patience. Do not just keep on raising the web forms after you submit an application. If you are applying from India, for example, it is going to take 13 to 14 weeks. This does not mean that all the applications take about 13 to 14 weeks. I have cases where the applications is taking over 20 weeks. I also have cases where the applications were approved in 3 days, literally 3 days. Study permit application from India got approved in 3 days. The point is, you really cannot say that, my friend's study permit got approved, mine is not coming. It is sort of common human analogy to say that, but if you keep on raising the web forms and all those kind of things, that may not work. The officers will get irritated. Do not do that. If you need genuine updates, GCMS notes is the way to go. But again, do that only when the processing time crosses. So if you are applying for a course in the month of January, for the winter session now from India, this may not be a good time because you do not have that much amount of time to lodge an application, and then the processing time is quite high, right? So make sure you choose the semester courses, accordingly. Other than that, the basic things about study permit is that you have to be a good student. If you're not a good student, no matter you hire the best immigration lawyer in the world, the application will not be approved, because in the end, Canada needs good students because you are coming here for study. Regardless of your permanent intention, everybody knows about it. By law, you have to prove that you will leave Canada. So that part of the application need to be stronger as well. So this is this is a case that I thought to discuss. I'm very happy to see this decision is also positive. I'm waiting for a lot of visitor visa decisions. Quite a few of my clients from all around the world have been waiting for their visitor visas for a while now. But I believe the visitor visa is not a priority. Study visas are the priorities. So I look forward to those decisions as well. And whenever I receive a decision, be it a positive or negative, I'm going to share that with you, to see if we can understand a little bit about the timeline and if you can learn from each other. I hope this helps. If you need my professional support with your study permit application, starting from A to Z of the process, either from college selection or just to submit your application by making sure everything is all right, book a consultation. That is the first step. Send by sending us an email, contact@nuvonation.ca. Shall be glad to speak with you to be able to understand your situation, to see what could be done. Hope this helps. Have a great week ahead, and I will see you in the next one, guys. Bye now.